Find a tribe. Find a tribe. Why you so stressed? It's not that serious. And free your mind. It's gonna be alright. Find a tribe. Find a tribe. Find a tribe. Find a tribe. Find a tribe.
Okay, it's officially girl talk time, y'all. Good afternoon. You're tuned into Glory 93.9 FM. It's your girl Mericha
And Joinae.
and we're so excited to be in your company today. Listen, if you are tuned in online, like and share it in the words of the bishop. Share it, share it, share it, share it, share it. My faces. Share it, share it, share it. For those of you who are tuned in on YouTube, share the link. For those of you who tuned in on Twitter, share it.
Share it.
Share it, share it, share it, share it, share it. Like I was saying, I apologize. I sound like somebody's husband today. I'm getting over a little bug. So y'all pray my strength, my scrent. Pray my scrent in the Lord. Pray my scrent in the Lord.
Friend.
My strength in the Lord. Oh Jesus. Okay, so I didn't do this last week, and so we got to make sure we do it this week. The text line, if you would like to send us a private message based upon our topic today, you can send us a text privately if you want to be anonymous to 242-825-2543. Sorry, that's not right. The number is 242-828-2543, 828-2543. And if you would like to call us and have your voice heard, but also still remain anonymous, you can call us at 828-3543. So the call line is 3543, 828-3543. And the text line is 828-2543. Hey, Chelsea, so awesome to have you tuned in with us today. Listen, we're going to dive right in. It's 5 minutes gone by 4 o'clock. So we are going to dive right in. Our topic today, I'm so excited.
I'm excited as well.
I'm so excited for this topic. I've been waiting to hit this topic, y'all. I've been waiting to hit this topic. In fact, if I tell you the truth, this was actually one of the topics that I had for last year's show, and we never got a chance to touch it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I'm super excited about today's topic. Underneath, I'm a hurting little girl. Underneath, I'm a hurting little girl. Can I tell you about an experience I had today, Joinae?
Okay.
Let me tell you about
Let me have it.
This was heavy. So there's a public school that I volunteer at. Because of everything, I know most of you who've been watching the news, you'll see that all of the schools, the government schools, they now have intervention programs for their troubled kids. And so there's a public school that I'm volunteering at doing their intervention program. And so we're there every Wednesday and Thursday because we meet with the 9th graders on Wednesday, and then we meet with the 7th and 8th graders together on Thursdays. Typically, I meet with the girls. That's who I usually meet with, logically. But today was a little different because today I met with the boys.
Wow.
And let me tell you something. That interaction that I had with those boys today, like, can I tell you that I was blushing, but not like in a good way, like a ashamed kind of way, like almost in like a, oh my gosh, like this is very overwhelming, but eye-opening, but yet I knew it kind of thing, kind of way. The things that they had to say, the language that they were using. I gave them freedom to express themselves. And so it was not a restricted environment. I want to make sure that people understand they weren't being disrespectful. But in giving them freedom, some of them took too much, liberty in what they had to say. And the young women that they were making reference to in their conversations, I sat there and I was like, one young man said he had three girlfriends. He has a girlfriend for money
Holy Ghost.
and a girlfriend to do one kind of physical thing, and then another girlfriend to do another kind of physical thing. And these are seventh and eighth graders. And then
Jesus.
another girl to watch pornography with. And so I was sitting there as a 30-plus-year-old listening to this young man, 13, 12, 13-year-old young men, actually, because there were several of them, making these references and insinuations, very over sexualized
Wow.
references and insinuations and topics just coming out of their mouths with ease, no hesitation. There was one young man in the group who just seemed very like, I can't believe y'all saying this in front of this woman. Like,
Wow.
she's an adult. Like, how come,
Wow.
like, y'all comfortable? Like,
Well, feel free.
he was like, y'all calm down. Like, and he was
Wow.
trying to like whisper to them, but everybody else was just like very liberal, like very free. And it made me realize that the women of 2030 are going to look a whole lot different from the women that we have right now,
Agreed.
because
Agreed.
I don't know what it was like for your generation, because you're a little younger than I am, but for me, if I knew that the young men around me, like the little boys around me when I was that age, was talking about me the way that those young men
Right.
were talking about girls,
Right.
and just like, I have her for this, I have her for that, because these girls ain't loyal and they
Right.
round here hugging the next boy
Right.
when you turn your back on them, and so I gotta have more than one because they have more than
I need
one,
options.
and it's like, okay, it's, I know you guys are saying, what does this have to do with today's topic? You can see in a second, because
I feel it. I don't know. I'm. Go ahead.
because I'm like, the girls who were in the session simultaneously with the boys, there was a situation where actually they were bringing up the name of one of the young ladies who was in the other
Oh
session.
wow.
And so it was like, oh my gosh, I was just sitting there and I was like, this is the kind of environment that I'm going to be bringing children in the world into.
Wow.
This over sexualized, demoralizing, um just like, just careless, like absolutely carefree environment where children can just access whatever they want to access,
Whenever
and
they
they
want.
have no kind of respect for any kind of decency. Like, they, like, there's just nothing. Like, and here's the thing, I'm not saying that I did not know this. I knew
Right.
this.
Mhm.
I knew this because I'm with these kids on a regular
Right.
basis. And then I do, you and I, we both do youth
Right.
ministry. So we know
What?
that this is what they were dealing with. But I think what hit me today was my young people in church, they hide this stuff from me.
Right.
They don't let me know that this the kind of
Right.
stuff that they into. This the kind of stuff that I'll bring up in a message and they looking at me like, oh, she know it.
Or God reveal.
Or like God would, like, or God reveal it to me. But this was a situation where
For real.
like these young men were like,
You don't
just
have. You
like
don't have to guess.
no filter.
You don't have to guess.
And they taught me some things too. Taught me some things. One of the things that I did not realize was very popular, and it could have been my ignorance, but there are young men who are having sex, but they're not penetrating a female. They're using another access point.
Oh.
And that's what seventh and eighth graders are doing to ensure that there is no child that comes into the world. And
It's news to me too.
so when we talk about being grown women and underneath us is a hurting little girl, and thinking about what these women are going to look like in 2030,
Agreed.
the way that they're being treated now, especially in our, I don't even want to say in our public school systems, because I'm pretty sure the same stuff is
Right.
happening in our private
Yes,
schools.
definitely.
We just don't know.
Right.
We're just not as exposed to it. But this generation that is coming up behind us, Generation Alpha, I think is what they're called. The over sexualization of this generation that they've been talking about in the media is an understatement to what's really happening. And if we think about what the generations before us looked like in reference to, I was talking to somebody about it today, about how my parents' generation which would be similar to your mother's
Yes.
generation, would have had to deal with, their grandparents having multiple families. So
Yeah.
they had a family in Nassau,
Yeah.
a family in Abaco,
Right.
whatever. There was kind of like this understanding, like you just didn't touch that
Right.
issue.
Right. Right.
And that, it was just infidelity.
Right.
Infidelity was sitting in the eyes of kids, not necessarily um sexual sexual stimulation amongst one another, but more incest, more
Right.
adults
Right.
doing the
Yes.
molesting and the
Yes.
raping, and so it
Yes.
was like an adult making impression on a child.
Right.
But now we have children interacting with children,
Yes.
which is a different scenario,
Yes.
because we're talking about children in engaging in things that they should not be engaging in, being exposed to things that
Especially
they
at 7, 8, 9 grade.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that this thing is common. I know that it's been happening for a while. I'm not ignorant to that. I just think that sometimes we have these issues that come up and people talk about them, and then all of a sudden they go back in the background
Right.
again, and we pretend as if they don't exist. And many of us have been produced, especially as women, because this is a girl talk, and we're
Right.
talking about women. Many of us have been produced in environments similar to this, where
Yes.
our bodies have been over sexualized, where our mindsets are kind of filtered through the idea that someone is going to desire me inappropriately, and so I have to fix myself
Right.
accordingly.
Right.
If that means that I have to, as a woman, if I want a man's attention, that means I dress a certain way,
Right.
because I realize that my body is going to be attracted to a
Right.
man. Or if you're on the other side of the spectrum, where you don't necessarily want the attention, so you adjust yourself
You
in the
tone it
opposite
down.
direction, and you cover yourself, whatever that looks like. As women, we have been raised to live our lives in light of how a man is going to view us, not just in the idea of wanting a mate or getting married, but we're told as children, like, or as little girls, like, well, little girls don't do this because it will cause a man to do
Right.
that.
Right.
Little girls don't say this, or you shouldn't say this, or you shouldn't be in this kind of
You shouldn't be
environment because
loud.
there might be a man. And I don't know what it was like for you. You can interrupt me at any point in time, but I'm going back now to that little girl who was being instructed by her family members, because her body was more mature than her peers.
Right.
Hearing my family members say to me, "Well, here's a good touch and here's a bad touch.
Right.
Um, you don't go into a room alone with a man, no
Right.
matter how old he is, no
Right.
matter if he's your relative or not. You
Right.
just you don't do that." And to see how it has produced who we are now as women in society, where we have overcome so much, but we don't realize that we're still subject to so much,
Mm.
because we we still have that little girl on the inside of us who has her auntie's voice in her head saying, "This is what a good touch is." If Annie did say it,
Right.
this is
Or,
what a good
or
touch
sometimes
is.
sister.
Or sometimes sister,
Yeah.
like, okay, no, don't let him touch you like
Right.
that, or don't let him speak to you that way, or even something as simple as somebody saying to us as a child, "Oh, you see how ugly you look?
Right.
You can grow into your beauty."
Right.
Just little things
Wow.
like that
Yeah. Yeah.
that were said to us as little girls, like, "Oh, you think you cute, eh? You don't even know what it is to be a woman. Wait till you get a woman. You can see what it means to be a
Right.
woman." Just
Yes.
little things like
Yes.
that,
Yes.
and just that kind of environment. I just had a moment today when I was driving from the school, and I was in my car, and I was like, Jesus,
This is real, and that's their everyday life.
that's their everyday life.
That's what they go to school to talk
Mhm.
with their friends about.
Mhm.
And ironically enough, my husband and I just had this conversation. If not today, maybe yesterday. No,
Mhm.
no, it wasn't today.
Mhm.
Yesterday or day before.
Mhm.
And he said, and we just were talking about the size of the children.
Mhm.
And when we were coming up, everyone looked a lot more than their age. And then
Mm-hmm.
what seems like now all of the children are like shorter, smaller, and they
Yeah.
look more babyish.
Mm-hmm.
But although they look a lot more babyish, they're going through so much more
Definitely.
than we did. And or even if we went through it, it wasn't as frequent.
No.
So very rarely you'll hear someone, okay, my uncle touched me this wrong way, or
Right.
my brother did this, or X, Y, and Z. But
Now it's everybody.
now it's everybody. And
Now it's
that's
everybody.
scary. That's scary for me. And it's so crazy that you talked about that, because it was just like a random conversation.
Yeah, and I couldn't not say anything about it as we go into this conversation today, because I feel like it
Major
has a
contribution.
yes, major
Major
contribution
contribution.
to this conversation that we're having today. How many of us as women are walking around with that little girl who has not healed,
Hmm.
and as a result, every encounter, every situation, every circumstance that we face in life is being filtered through the trauma of that little girl. So I am encountering this man who I'm dating, or my husband, or my fiance, or my boyfriend. I'm encountering him through the filter of a hurting little girl,
Girl.
of a
Yes.
little girl who has some kind of trauma that has happened to her, or who saw something happen to her mother,
Yes. And it's become a norm.
and it's like it's
It's
okay.
second nature.
Exactly. There was a guest preacher who was at my church on Sunday, and just as he was about to walk out of the door, Bishop called him up, and he was just saying how he was admonishing the men in the church that, men, you're not loving our women correctly.
Wow.
And it was such a strong, it was just a strong message, a strong word, a strong warning, really. And it freed me. I kid you not. I kid you not, Joinae. It freed me. And when I share this perspective, I'm sure a lot of women will agree that, especially for those of us who are in church. I don't know what it's like to be outside of church, y'all. So y'all gonna have to forgive me. I've been in church all my life.
I know, maybe not all my life,
You have
but
been. I know you, and you look different from me.
all my life, but something
I grew up in church.
pretty close to all my life.
I grew up in church. I don't know what it's like to be in life outside of church, but I could tell you one of the things that I've always been conscious about as a woman is my body.
Mm.
Always, always, always conscious of how a man is going to view my body. It didn't just come from home. It came from church. It came from like any kind of civic group or extracurricular activity that I was involved in,
Mhm.
even playing sports.
Yes.
Playing sports and having male coaches and male referees.
Yes.
Like them telling you, no, you need more than one sports bra. You
Mhm.
gotta double down.
Right.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, just carry yourself this way. Do this, don't do
Right.
that. Telling you to make adjustments and to do things so as not to arouse a man or invoke pleasure in a man. And we are living our lives either trying to get a man's attention or avoid it.
Mm.
And we don't see it as the backdrop behind our existence as women. We don't see it.
Agree.
We don't see it. We dress it up.
Yeah.
We dress it up.
Yeah.
And something that the pastor said on Sunday, he said women should be free to be themselves without having to be conscious about whether or not you're lusting after them or not.
Hmm.
And he said, as men, we don't free our women, we imprison them.
Wow.
And it started to make me think, like, even just something as simple as when I'm getting dressed for church on a Sunday morning, how I make adjustments
Right.
to ensure that I'm not offending anybody.
Right.
I gotta jump up and down in my clothes before I leave the house.
Make sure.
I do. I jump up and down. I lift my hands.
I said that too. The only
I
thing is do that.
I lift my hands.
Wow.
I bend over.
Wow.
And here's the thing. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be modest, That's
Or-
not what I'm
Or
saying.
appropriate.
Or appropriate. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do these things. I'm just saying the reason that I'm doing this is because
Because of the view.
of the view.
Yeah.
Because there's a possibility that you could take something that I'm wearing or look at me and view me improperly.
Mm.
And my 12-year-old self, my 9-year-old self was aware of that.
Gee, I gotta think back.
My 9-year-old self was aware of that. That would have been the conversation that was had when I had my first period at 9 years old.
Mm,
And it was like, hey, so now
listen.
this is what's going to
Right.
happen.
Right.
And this is what, like, and it was like a 9-year-old has to now be introduced to the fact that
Wow.
someone is going to be interested in her body.
This is tight.
How many of us are out here kind of just living life with that little girl on the inside of us, just like wanting to be free, but she can't be free. She's not free to be who she can't even discover who she's really supposed to be because
We don't do that here.
no,
Right.
we don't do
Right.
that.
Right. Right.
There is no freedom for her. And I definitely, I don't know. I don't want to be her.
Do you feel like you are? Or there may be some traits of it, but not full on.
So I think that if we all take some reflection and some introspection and look at it, there is some portion of our life that is being governed by the trauma of that little girl that we once were, or some ideal that was placed in her mind that we've never freed ourselves
Okay,
from.
so let's get to the root of the issue. Who put the thought there? Right? Who and why? Who and why? And then, because the story that you mentioned about the young men or boys, I guess, who's raising them?
Themselves,
And
media.
and that's the issue. Because, G, my baby, I think about all of the things that could go left and the way society seems to have this hold on young men, just taking it there.
Yes.
Since that's what you brought up, it scares me. And if they're not secure at home, they're going to want to explore when they go to school.
Yeah.
And then if that person who they connect with at school isn't cultured from at home, then that influences who they become. So same thing for the females. The reality is some females didn't have their father.
Right.
Hurting little girl.
Right.
So they look for that father figure in men everyday life. And it isn't because their dad died or
no.
However, no, they were neglected.
Yes.
So
had to raise
so
themselves.
all of
Yeah.
that, I like. So I like, because you're saying all of that, it makes me think all the way back. So back to my first question: Who placed the thought, and why, and what trauma they didn't deal with that they imposed on you to have that issue now? So okay, let me take it back. My mom tells me something based on what happened to her. Tell me, let's talk about that. What
So she would have made a statement based upon her experience. And you're saying, where did that come from? You're taking it back to your mother. I'm not gonna lie, but I going back to Genesis.
Jesus, preach.
Because when you go back to the book of Genesis and you understand what the curse actually means, there are some things hidden in that curse that I think we kind of miss.
Jesus.
And it's the reality that there is a tension that was placed between woman and man at the time when sin came in and entered into the world. Because a lot of times we look at the story and we crack a joke and we make jokes about Eve, and we say how Eve gone give this thing to her husband, and Eve used the reason all us in sin.
When I get to heaven, I can punch up
exactly,
Eve.
and people mad with Eve. But the reality is that one of the things that was made very clear in that moment was that woman had the ability to influence man.
Mm.
And a part of the curse was that we would always want to,
Wow.
which we know, but we don't look at the opposite of that. A part of the opposite of that is that man would always be fighting for lordship over woman.
Wow.
So we see the manipulating part of the woman to the man, but we don't take into consideration the effect it has on the
Right.
man, and the implication of
Right.
his
Yes.
behavior toward the
Yes.
woman.
Yes.
So basically, the implications of the curse from the book of Genesis says to us that men will want to manipulate us before we have the ability to manipulate them.
Mm.
That means that they govern what we wear, how we dress, what we say, how we
Hmm.
feel about ourselves, how we feel about them, how we feel about the things that we can accomplish in life, whether or not we should be accomplishing anything in life. Can I
Right.
accomplish anything without a
Right.
man?
Right.
This element of the curse is kind of hidden and underneath the, oh, you'll want a lord over your husband,
Right.
but you will always love him.
Right.
And so there's this tension that exists between the man and the woman where, like, I want to love this man, but it seems like I want to love him so I can control him.
Right.
And he's looking at my love and he's like, she's just trying to manipulate me.
Right.
So I need to be lord over her.
See, okay. Go ahead. No, go
No,
ahead.
you go. I
Go
finished.
ahead. Go.
I
See,
drinking.
see,
I sipping
because
my tea.
I think that issue.
Jesus came to break it, but we ain't letting him break it.
But I don't think that everyone thinks that way.
But we living in it though.
Okay, out of 100%, give me a percentage.
Who living it? Who living on
Yeah.
the? Are we going based upon like generations, or are we going just like the reality of
Just
life?
the reality of life.
Okay, let's look at the situation that I encountered today with those
Okay,
boys.
yes.
Let's just look at those boys right there. Based upon the 7 boys that were in that room today, I would say that all of them are functioning underneath that.
Jesus Lord.
There was not one that wasn't. Not once. Like literally, their language was, "No, these girls out here having
What about
a
the
bunch of
one who?
boyfriends, so I gotta have a bunch of girlfriends too."
So what about the one who
The
who
one who was looking,
who was like trying to tune it
he
down?
was like,
But would he be considered under or not
okay,
under?
so he'd be okay. So let's say
He-
6 out of 7.
Okay.
6 out of 7. Because listen, their language was, these girls are doing this, so as a result, I have to do this. It didn't start with them. It started with, this is what the girls are doing. My girlfriend, one of the boys said, one of my girlfriends, I
One.
saw her hug one of my girlfriends. I saw her hugging another dude, so I had to get another girlfriend because she can't have 2 boyfriends, and I only have one girlfriend.
But see me, I like to investigate. My thing is, how do you know that that was a boyfriend?
It didn't matter. It's the appearance. It's the appearance. That's why the Bible tell you avoid the very appearance of evil.
But it's also perception. So a man think it,
It's-
so is he. So help me out. I mean, you know what I mean, okay. All right.
Giselle says, I would like to see when we have the same conversation with men for them to be accountable for their thoughts and what they see when they look at women, bringing them under subjection, so that so much of the pressure is not on women. Listen, because the pressure is on us. But Joe, I want you to really think about it. 6 out of those 7 boys was like,
That's a problem for me.
I have to do this because
That's a problem for me. I think I may not say much on this. I just feel like it stems from home.
Yes, it does.
It stems from home, and we need a solution. And I will
But
not.
mommy's hurting.
Jesus be offense.
Mommy is hurting, and
Mommy-
mommy is sleeping with several men to take care of you.
Mommy needs to be delivered. Mommy needs to see God.
Mhm.
The whole
But who's
point.
presented God to mommy?
Mommy live in Nassau.
Who's presented God to mommy in a way where mommy actually believes God can help her?
Does mommy live in Nassau?
I think so.
Okay, that's the answer to that.
Uh,
You really think that at no point Mummying.
Listen, I'm not saying at no point mommy ain't encounter Jesus, but did mommy encounter the deliverer? You see, the way that I bring Jesus to you ain't gonna necessarily be
That's right.
the way.
But I
You
feel,
understand what I'm
but
saying?
even if no one presents it, there is something in you that'll let you know. Listen, I need to be freed from this. I don't want to be this way. Just as simple as you saying, I don't want to be that girl. I don't want to be the hurting little girl inside. I don't want to be as old as I am now, operating at 11-year-old perception or
Mm.
trauma.
But that's what we have, though. We have grown women raising children who are hurting little girls.
Maybe my perception is off. I just feel like we need to be
And I
delivered.
think that because you've been exposed to deliverance and freedom, you think that it's something that can be perceived by the one who needs deliverance and freedom. But the reality is, the person who's in bondage, if they've never been exposed to freedom, they can't even perceive
I
it.
understand. It's a way of life. It's
It's the
okay.
norm.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
it's a
I
survival
understand.
mechanism.
I
And
understand.
so the idea of not being that woman who has to do whatever it takes to provide for her children, like the idea of not being her is not even real. Like
Right.
that's what people is do on TV.
Right. Right.
That don't happen in real life.
So how do we get over
And
this?
And to add to that, before I answer your question, to add to that, so many of us have our own personal things like that, like internal struggles like that we're actually living with every day, and we don't even realize that. Like there are elements of us that are similar to women like that, where like we have this thing on the inside of us that's literally governing our thought
I
processes. It's
got it.
governing, like
Yes.
governing our behavior,
Yes.
governing the way that we interact with people. It's affecting our
Yes.
relationships, affecting how we interact with the opposite sex, and affecting our friendships with our
Yes.
girlfriends, affecting our job life, our family life. It's affecting everything. And
In Christianity.
even Christianity, it affects how we even view and encounter
Yes.
God.
Yes.
Because to encounter God as Father in the eyes of a woman whose father or whose father figures have raped or molested her is not a pleasant
Right.
thing.
Right.
It's not a pleasant thing.
Right.
And that's the other part that we have to consider too when we're introducing true Christianity to unbelievers, especially hurting women,
Right.
these women who have these hurting little girls on the inside of them. We think that presenting God as Father is the ideal way to win them over. But for some
Right.
of them in their mind, my father has never been there to
Right.
me. So why would
Right.
I want God the Father?
Right.
My my uncle who was supposed to be my father raped me 3 times. So what you
Right.
telling me is like I supposed to turn to another man to save me from a
Right.
man? No, I don't want that. I'm not
Right.
interested in that.
Right.
And yeah.
That's tight. While you're talking, I
Mm-hmm.
thought about it's a Netflix movie. Cannot remember the name. Please forgive me.
It ain't the Shake.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Is something like Grey's Anatomy, but
Mm-hmm.
Amsterdam.
Oh, New Amsterdam. Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that was it. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this young woman came in to bring her son,
Mm-hmm.
right? Black woman, independent,
Mm-hmm.
single
Mm-hmm.
mother,
Mm-hmm.
and she brought her son in, or a nephew or somebody, and he was playing sports, and every time the doctors would come in, she would get anxiety about, okay, where you're taking him, what's happening or what's going
Mm-hmm.
wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and they they diagnosed her and told her that she had anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
But because she was, and I quote, a strong Black woman,
Mm-hmm.
you're not allowed to hurt.
No.
You're not allowed to cry in front of your
No.
children. You're not allowed to. It's kind of like this thing we unknowingly do. I'm just gonna bear it and just move on.
Exactly.
I'm just gonna bear it and move on. And I think that we have this stigma that there is no true help. Let's say we take it outside. Let's say you speak with someone, you have a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
or therapists are expensive. You have a
Mm-hmm.
girlfriend and you say,
Mm-hmm.
"Listen, this is where I'm at. This is
Mm-hmm.
what I'm dealing with and I need help." I feel like we don't ask for help.
No.
We want to be you want to say 10 years old.
Right.
You want to always be hurt by your father
Mm-hmm.
or have that mental image or
Mm-hmm.
that thing that was so traumatic to you. You don't want to be free. And I think what adds to that too, in past generations, where uncles would molest,
Yes.
who was it? uncles would molest the children,
Mm-hmm.
and the parents, don't worry about that.
Yeah. Don't
Brush
say
that,
that. Yeah. Don't
brush
say
that off.
nothing.
But brush
Don't
that
tell
off.
nobody that.
Don't you dare. And not
Mm-hmm.
only don't you tell no one about it, dying true.
Mm.
You are lying. And then how can a 10-year-old or 8-year-old word stand against someone who's 30 something?
Because why would he do that? He don't do anything to that.
I don't know him to be like that.
Mm.
You saw that on TV. That's why you making that
Right.
up.
Right.
We don't ask for help. And we, like the lady in the Netflix series, she couldn't believe it because, as far as she's concerned, listen, he's already been through a lot. I've already been through a lot. And anything that looks like it's going to be what I've seen before, I'm going to block out. And that's where we're at.
Wow.
So when we make reference to underneath, I'm a hurting little girl, I want my daddy. Underneath, you still focus on what happened. And
Jeez.
anything that looks like it, anything that seems like, you can have a guy treat you like a queen, and that one day he, I don't know, drops something on the floor. And it reminds you or takes you back to that place
Yes.
because you haven't been delivered. You shut that person out, and
You haven't
that could be the
healed.
person who God have you to be with because you're not delivered. So I think, first off, be honest with yourself. If you know some things, I didn't realize how much. Well, first of all, my father died from I was 14 years old,
Wow.
and I remember it clear as day. I was doing BJCA, about to do the BJCs,
Mm-hmm.
and that trauma, I didn't realize that I still carried it until last week.
Wow.
Last week. And we
Wow.
had women's ministry, and we just was talking about, the usual. And it wasn't until I encountered someone with a similar situation that I could say, wow, what you're feeling, I still feel.
Wow.
And it's fresh for them. Like, someone just
Mm-hmm.
died
Mm-hmm.
about a year. It's still fresh for them, but
Mm-hmm.
umpteen years later, how is that? Now, it may not affect the way I view my husband,
Mm-hmm.
or the way I view God,
Mm-hmm.
or the way I view male figures,
Mm-hmm.
but you still hurt.
Mm.
You still hurt, and in somewhere in your personality, that's altered.
Yes.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you need to acknowledge that you need help, and that's what I had to do. And I had to be honest with myself and say, listen, Joe, let's call myself Joe. Listen, Joe, you need to get it together because
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense. You take on this hurt for years upon years upon years. And then when you have a child, that same curse or
Mm.
that same trauma, you you teach
You
them,
pass it on.
not necessarily pass it on. You teach them from that trauma. You teach them from that.
It's the filter.
Okay. Comment say.
Xavier says, you as a parent can do the best you can. The problem arises when we send them out into the world, schools, clubs amongst broken children. Prayer has to be the key, seems to be the only way. And breaking generational curses from these babes are in the womb. Prayer, priority, has to change when a woman is pregnant.
I agree. And I think we really need to be more involved. We have parents, speaking from, I guess, experience now,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have parents that are just busy with their everyday lives, trying to make it, trying to put food on the table. So I don't notice when my child does something different, or he was exposed to this, or she was exposed to this. And even though I'm praying, watch and pray. You're not watching.
Mom, you just said something.
You can't, bless God for prayer, but you're not watching. And if you are so consumed about finding the perfect man for your life, or doing your dream
Goodness.
job, or pleasing the people that are around you, or serving whatever it is that you do, you are not watching.
Ugh.
And when your child, and this is the relationship that I want with my son, in Jesus' name, you are able to tell me, Mommy, you wouldn't believe,
Right.
Mommy, Now, mommy, I know you say this, but this is, and I know
Yes.
daddy say this, but this is what they're saying. Is this true?
Yes.
How should I feel about this?
Yes. Yes.
We're not watching them.
Yes. I love that.
We don't.
Hashtag watch and pray. You can't just pray. Oh my gosh. That is so good.
You have to watch and pray. At this point, and just all that we've discussed thus far, at this point, you have to watch and pray. These children are plagued with so many things. Th- What you experience is probably the tip of the iceberg.
Listen to me. I tell you,
And not
I
only, and then not only, see, I'm thinking more spiritual now.
yes. Yes.
Not only that,
Yes.
but the method in which they're trying to go about not
Listen.
getting
Listen to me.
the females pregnant
Listen to
is
me.
exposing them, oh, Holy Ghost,
To another level of sexual perversion. One of the things that
Mm-mm.
I know, like I know this for a fact.
Peer pressure is real.
I know that peer pressure is real. But I know for us as women, it's something that we don't like to talk about. We don't like to touch it. But the idea that like we know when a man wants to be inappropriate with us.
You could feel it. You could sense it.
We can feel it.
You can sense it.
We can feel it. We know it. And in most cases, we can actually tell when somebody's looking at us without even looking
You
at
feel
the
it.
person. We can feel it.
You could feel it.
We can feel it. And one of the things that I feel like as women we need to talk about more is, do you remember the first time that happened to you and how that removed your innocence? And literally, you are now living a life as a woman inadvertently, subconsciously watching your back all the time.
All the time. All day, every day.
All the time.
Even after being married.
Even with 2 rings or 3 rings on your finger.
3 rings. 3 rings. Honestly,
even
now
with
that you
3
say it
rings.
like that,
Yeah.
oh, wow.
Always. We are always like this is something that I hear my pastor say it all the time, and it's so true. As women, when we moving on our own, like when we moving around, we coming out of our car quick because we scared a man, we ain't scared a woman.
Right. That's right.
I remember one of my fellow DJs, he on his show, he was talking about what would you do if the entire world was rid of men for one day? And we asked a bunch of people what they would do, and he was reading the comments underneath it. And one of the women said she would go to the store and she would leave a handbag in the car
That's the first thing I thought. I would leave the window screw down.
and leave the window screw down
I would.
and like one girl said, I'll go to the beach with my swimsuit on without a cover up.
Wow. But then, see, there's a flip side to that too. Some women don't care, and they don't like. They want the attention of men in that way because underneath they are hurting little girls seeking attention from a male figure.
Either way, there's still that connection, that element on the inside of us that says, when you do this, you get a man's attention. When you don't do this,
You won't.
you won't.
Right.
Or you think you won't.
Hmm.
Because experience has taught me, like, it don't matter. You could wear a paper bag and it don't matter.
Paper bag with a belt.
With a belt.
With a belt. Don't forget that you need the belt. You need
It
the
don't
belt.
matter. And I know that we're taking this from the perspective of females and males, and it might seem like we're allowing that to superintend the conversation. But our reality is that's where we are.
That's where
Like we don't even realize it because it's so ingrained in us. We don't even realize it. And I think that there's a healthy way that it's supposed to impact us. And right now we're not doing it in a healthy way. I think that our fathers, the males in our lives, should have a positive influence
Agreed.
on how we see ourselves as girls, as women, as ladies. And right now there's this redemption I feel like that needs to take place in the lives of so many of us, because I even thought about some of the people that I know around me who look at their fathers and they think they have the most amazing fathers. And I've heard some stories about their fathers that I'm pretty sure would blow their mind, but I ain't gonna
Wow.
tell you because I don't want to spoil the view of your father. Like
Right.
I want to tell you,
Right.
your daddy got, remarried to his mistress after your
Wow.
mommy dead. I don't want to tell you
Wow.
that
Wow.
because I want to leave it in your mind that
Keep the purity.
your daddy was such a great man.
Right. Yeah.
you know,
You leave it at that.
but like, I mean,
That's tight.
everybody think he's amazing, he's decent, but no, I can need you to know, like, sister girl was round from your mommy was alive,
Wow.
and now your mommy gone, and she just lied right in there.
Wow.
But just you see a good daddy.
I mean, but
It's your good
I
daddy.
mean, but the story have to make sense first, though. I mean, if the mother is not the real mother, what you really thought? Anyway, don't worry about it.
I'm just saying though, these are
That's for another
things
day.
that, but these are things that, like, can I tell you this? I'll tell you this. This is my reality, like straight up. Like this is what I pray and I talk to God about. Pray. This is what I talk to God about. I don't pray about this. I talk to God about it because my mindset has to change. I asked God. I said, "Are there? Is there a reality where, like, this male female relationship thing actually works and it's healthy?" I was saying that out loud to God the other day because I said to him, I said, I know so very few faithful men
Wow.
and I know so very few decent women.
Wow.
And I'm not trying to say that, like, all the men around me are adulterers or whatever. That's not what I'm
Right.
saying. I'm just saying that the men that I know are few in comparison
Two.
to the
Yes.
ones that I've encountered
Yes.
who are, like, and I'm saying to myself, like, and what I'm doing is I'm painting the picture for you how the little girl in me was exposed to an adultering father, adultering uncles, molested by other males in
Right.
my life, raped by other males around me. And now my view of man is it even possible for a man to be
Right.
good?
Mm.
Is it even like, is it even like, can I, can a woman and a man coexist platonically? Is the question that I
In
sometimes
this age.
in it just, I mean, I don't even want to even say in this age, just period. Like these are things that as women, that's kind of sitting in the
Right.
back of our minds, and we're functioning on our jobs, we're raising our children, we're getting married, like, and in the back of our minds we have these questions that need answers.
What is the answer, Mauricio?
But yeah, I know.
Honestly, comments. We need y'all help.
listen
What
listen to
is the
me.
answer?
What is the
No,
answer? Like,
honestly.
seriously, because I don't want to be, you're married, I'm
I
not.
I
I don't want to be that woman that walks into her marriage thinking,
I
like,
still saying the
is
same
my
thing.
husband molesting somebody else's little girl?
She
See,
says
that's a real thing. I being real with y'all.
that's real.
I being real with y'all.
Or if okay, I have a child and then I marry someone and
Ah,
would they
what is this man gonna touch my child?
and not only that, you are married to them, but you have to teach your child on the side.
Exactly.
Baby, if this happened, boom, boom,
Right.
boom.
Right.
Or the
And this
child
is
is
what women
feeling
are
like
dealing with.
mommy wouldn't say something like that to
This
me.
is what women are
Wow.
dealing with. Like, okay, so like the scenario that you made. I marry this man and I already have children. Let's say I have two children. I have a male child and a female child, right? I marry this man. I bring him into my home. It seems like he's loving on my kids. Everything is great. Everything is wonderful. Everything is awesome. And then all of a sudden, I see my male child having feminine tendencies out of
Right.
nowhere.
Right. Right.
And when I ask him, what's like,
What happened?
what's going on here?
Right.
Like, what's really happening? And then years later, I find out that this man who I bring into my house is molesting my son.
But are you watching?
Um,
That are you watching? Are you discerning? Too, because last week
yeah.
with the level of deception. No, see, it goes back to deception.
That
If
deception
if
is
you
so
if you
real.
can lie about something like that,
It's so real.
if you can lie about something like that,
And
I don't trust you.
we put up with, we choose what we want to put up. See, this is this all I expose in my personal conversations with God to y'all, because I say to God, I always have people say, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to finding a mate, when it comes to choosing the person that you're going to be with, you have to decide what you're going to put up with. And I'm like, okay, God,
What?
when you say,
Put
when
up.
people say you
Put
have
up.
to decide what you're going to put up with, like, so,
Maybe it's a lack of better wording.
like, um, and I can't really say everything I say there, because, some things I can't say on the
No,
radio.
don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it.
But like, I'm thinking to myself, like, and honestly, what I'm exposing to you, I'm exposing my own life to you and to our listeners, and like, just trying to show you how, like, history has a way of affecting the future if we don't close chapters.
We letting it ride. Honestly,
If we don't close chapters, and I feel like, oh gosh, similar to you, I had an experience on Sunday. I won't say where I was. I had an experience on Sunday that took me back to high school. And like, I had to kind of gather myself and keep my composure in the moment when it happened to me, because I was surrounded by people. So if I had, like, if I had reacted instead of responded, I could have blown up an entire event. Like, it could have
wow.
been like a thing. So I kind of had to
Pull it in.
I had to reel myself in, and I had to respond and not react, because, like, if I had reacted, like, I would have screamed, and then I would have, like, shouted at the person.
Wow.
And so I was like, reel it in, boo, reel it in, reel it in. And instead I walked away, and then eventually I went back to the person, and I, was
Right.
like, don't you ever do that again, like, that kind of thing. But I realized that it caused a moment that I experienced in high school to resurface. And it would have been the first time I felt uncomfortable in a room with somebody.
Wow.
And I felt as though this person's intentions toward me was impure.
Mm.
And I just, like you said, I had to be self-aware, right? If I wasn't so aware of this thing that exists in my life now as a trigger, right? Then I would have just, like, I would have gone off, and then, like,
Left. Everything was left.
the non-movie cutter would have cut a movie.
No.
Like, listen to me.
See,
A
if
movie was gonna be script written,
you
produced,
if you were a
and
movie cutter,
played.
you would know that there are levels to the
There's
movie.
levels to the movie.
You'd have had a little mild movie.
But listen to me. I just was like, I had to reel it in. I had to reel myself in. And if you had seen me in the moment, you would have never known, like, the internal struggle I was facing.
And that's the thing. And I
Like,
think, honestly, Mericha, that's a part of the problem. No one will know that you struggle with that internally if you don't say.
yeah.
And because everyone wants to, I want to look good with my pink jacket on. I want to, make
Mhm.
sure all of my hairs are in place, and I need to have this persona that, I have it all together. And because everyone is trying to do that, everyone is going by in life with trauma, with triggers. And then
Jeez.
and then we don't see them in public. But when you're in a relationship, and this isn't even just the someone you want to be married to, friendships,
Yes.
the people that you have to work with,
Yes.
all of these things are affecting our daily lives, and we don't want to talk about it because we need to keep it all together. Maybe it's required.
So who told us? Who told us that? Who told us? And I'm saying it, and I'm processing the question before I even answer it. Like, but who told us not to answer back and not to say, like, no, don't do that to me, or don't say that to me, or don't treat me that way. Like, who told us not to do those things? Who told us not to stand up for ourselves?
I think it depends.
Where did it come from? How did we, and who told us to hold it in? Don't tell somebody that you're hurting. Don't tell somebody
I think
that
life, society.
that comment that was made caused you to mature with low self-esteem and low
Mm,
self-confidence. Like,
mm.
who told you to take somebody's insult as truth instead of taking somebody's compliment as truth? Like who dictated this?
I don't think it was actually verbal.
Hmm.
Like someone doesn't have to tell you.
So you're saying that it's a
Right,
learned behavior by observation
right,
and
right. That's
mm,
I see this. This seems to be the norm. So let me just go. Let me go with this because I don't want to step on any toes, or I don't want to hurt people, or
mm,
I don't want to make my parents look bad. Like that
yeah.
kind of way.
Hmm.
That I think it's learned in
Bas-
some cases.
Basal says, I do believe that with God at the center in both partners' lives can foster a faith so great that there's no room for fear or any of those unrighteous acts.
The non-movie cut off.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I really tried to change my movie cutting days
Yeah,
and I'll say to it's safe to say that I have, honestly.
I'm proud of you.
But I feel like um you pointed out something that like made me open my eyes to what I've had to do to be a non-movie cutter.
And that's suppress. Suppress. Go into hiding. You go into
Hmm.
hiding, you go into isolation.
What's healthy then? What's healthy? Like, what's healthy? Like, let me,
Expressing it in a non-disrespectful way.
which is what I eventually did, but there had to be some kind of suppression in the instance because, like I said, I was, to be honest with you, I was more concerned about where I was than what was happening to me at that time.
Mm. Now, that in some cases, honestly, you really have to bite the
You
bullet.
have to.
But I'm talking about everyday life.
Everyday life is a lot different.
Everyday
Now,
life.
this is hmm, triggers. Triggers are no joke. You hear me?
A smile could be a trigger.
Triggers are no joke. And I want to ask my girlfriends out there, like, are you aware of your triggers? And I mean all of them, not just the ones that you just like that you just
Okay,
encountered in
I'm
like
not
in the
aware of
last
all.
5 years, but like
I don't think I'm aware of all.
even the ones like from your childhood. Like, let me tell you, I have a trigger from my childhood, and the trigger is don't don't promise me something and you don't follow through.
Mm,
That's a trigger that I have
mm,
from my childhood because there was an adult in my life. I'm not going to say who it was. There was an adult in my life. Whenever this person said that they were going to do something,
they don't do it.
the joke amongst me and my other family members was, yeah, never worry first.
Wow. Wow.
And so as a result, I just don't believe people.
Hmm. You don't believe people when they say it, or you don't believe them anymore after they don't do it.
I don't believe it when they say it. I believe it when they do it.
Mm,
And when somebody says something, I have no expectation of them to do it.
mm,
And imagine that now being taken, taking that because it happens into my relationship with God when He releases a word over me, and
and
now I have to trust Him at His word,
not only that.
and I gotta pray this word through.
Right.
This
Right.
word I
Right.
don't believe.
Wow. Wow.
Like, and so I'm like, I can believe it when I see it. In fact, when I think about it, like even when I'm first talking to a guy and like I first started to get to know him, like that has come out of my mouth so much. Yeah, I can believe it when I see it. Like I'm
Wow.
just like, yeah, you talking, talk. All I hear is a bunch of words. And like I'm like almost like if you could imagine my emotional state standing there with boxing gloves, like say what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
Do something in accordance with your words. And it's
Right.
like I have this stance, like this defense mechanism. Like I don't believe you till I see it.
This is
And
tricky.
that's 6-year-old Mericha.
That's tricky because the moment we tell someone that has that perspective to let it go, somebody dumb
Listen,
comes around and does the same thing. However, Marisha, can't beat everybody with the same stick.
Xavier says emotional intelligence, controlling,
I'm gonna remember that. You can't beat everybody with the same stick.
controlling one's emotions while managing others' emotions. It's a learned behavior, and I am definitely still learning. Me too. But Sal says you really have to feel your feelings, understand them, then respond. And she also
Agreed.
says, even with triggers, you have to understand them and where they come from, how you used to react, and how you must grow in
Yes.
responding.
Yes. Perfect.
Xavier says, oh, that's my trigger too. Girl, let me tell you something. Ugh. I can't stand the people who take me for a fool,
But see,
making
but Marisha,
promises,
this see, this is where we're gonna have a problem.
making promises and not following through. And let me tell you, unfortunately, what it also has produced in me, it has produced in me a people pleasing mechanism that forces me, even to my detriment, to always follow through on my word.
Wow.
So if I am not well in my body, but I gave someone my word, I will push
Mm,
myself to the limit because I don't want to be that person I can't stand.
it's a big conk.
Big, they have you for conk,
Queen conk.
Xavier, and I
Queen.
don't like it.
Queen conk.
I don't appreciate it. And listen to me, I'm hearing myself, I'm hearing how hypocritical it sounds. I am hearing how he that has no sin cast the first stone. It sound when it comes out of my mouth, I hear it. I hear how there's no grace in it. I hear how there's no mercy, there's no love. It's just me and my feelings. I am very much aware of it. And it's why it's something that I always go back to Jesus and I'm like, Jesus, oh Lord, you have to help me because I just.
But okay? Do you think that because of what happened 6 years old,
Mm-hmm.
not being free from it,
Mm-hmm.
it attracts that kind of people to always do it to you? Because
Oh!
I mentioned it very briefly last week. I mean, I just wanted to stick a pin right here, since we want to really dance around this. Is it something in
Woo!
me? Watch this. When a man sees me outside of my clothing, outside of my makeup, can he tell that I'm broken inside and know exactly what to do to further break me down because he wasn't raised properly, or he had a father who abandoned him, or a mother who told him that he would never be anything, and that because of his trauma sees spirit, no spirit, That's what the Bible says. Spirit, how can two walk
Mm,
except they agree?
mm.
Something in us is agreeing with a thing that's bringing harm to us. Are we going to address that? And we can't, gone are the days of blaming, okay, this one hurt me, that one hurt me, having issues from 1900. And we don't want to let it go. And we don't want to change because we need the person who did that to come back and say, I'm sorry, Marisha. I made you a promise and I didn't fulfill it. And not only once, but more than once, Marisha. That's what we're looking for. And you know what that issue is? Pride. Because how dare you hurt me? How dare you promise me something and you don't live up to it? That's the issue. That's the issue that we don't want to address.
Mm.
I rest my
You
case.
said so much there, and
I rest my case. Something in me attracts people to hurting me. Attracts.
I.
The hurting little girl is attracting the hurting little boy.
Oh yes,
How about that?
yes. Yes.
How can two
My
walk except they agree?
my brokenness is looking for a pity party. Is looking for a pity party, mm.
And that, and
And I think in most cases, to be honest with you, because I am an optimist,
oh
that
yeah,
it's I
help me
am.
understand that.
I think that in most
Help me
cases,
understand that, Marisha,
I
because
am an
you just tell
optimist.
people.
Yeah, no, but I'm an optimist. Let me tell you how I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist. So in most cases, I would like to believe that this element of the human exchange, especially between female and male, is subconscious. I would like to believe that a man does not consciously know that his brokenness
I'm sorry.
is connecting to, like, see, and you tell me no.
Go ahead, Marisha. Go ahead. Let the Lord use you. Go
No,
ahead.
like for real. Like I would like to believe like he doesn't know that that's what he's attracted to. But you looking at me like, what in the world is girl talking about?
I know I understand your
You
point.
understand where I'm coming
I
from?
understand your point.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Right. I'm like it still boils down to the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And why is that man or whoever?
Okay, so let's talk about this because does there no one okay. Gather my thoughts. Okay. So the idea of having these personal traumas, these elements of our history where the chapters have not been closed, as women, and it being kind of like you're gonna have to like really
I've been
manhandle that.
working with this.
Hmm. And
There we go.
having that have attract a certain type of individual into our lives, male or female, because it goes both ways.
Right.
um or even just circumstances too. Having that element of our lives, we don't ever arrive at a place of perfection in our human flesh where we don't have something, um where we don't have something.
Okay.
So this goes back to the question that I was having a conversation with God about knowing what you will put up with or not. And I know it sounds like a bad perspective, but let's take it outside of the frame with which I talked to God about it. I talked to God about it from a relationship perspective, but now let's talk about it from an introspection, a place of introspection. What element of who we are we just saying, you know what? I'm not going to touch that right now.
Right.
It's okay that this is who I am. It's okay that
this is the way I am.
It's okay that I'm defensive all the time and I go in fighting.
This is my personality.
This, like, what element of who we are, that hurting little girl, have we told us that this is a part of my character and my nature, and as a result you just have to deal with it? Because I think about,
and that's why people have to put up with. Anyway, but go ahead. You saw we got upset. You saw, okay. Put what? No.
I think about, like, even something as simple as like my shopping habits.
Marisha.
No, seriously, because there's a level of shopping that's healthy, and then there's a very thin line between healthy and
it's a shopping healthy woman of God.
Addiction. The last fast that I was on, I ain't gonna lie, it reeled me in really good. Because I don't know how you fast, but when I fast, I remove all pleasures, including shopping. So I'm not, when I'm fasting, I'm not allowed to buy anything. I'm not allowed to browse. In fact, there was one time I was fasting, I had to delete Amazon from my phone in order to discipline myself.
And that's a problem.
And I had to delete Shein.
Why Amazon have that stronghold on?
Listen, Amazon, Shein, Ashley Stewart, they, like, listen, it's, Yes. So I'm in a good place with it now. But I'm thinking about it. Like, I'm thinking about the reality that, like, the person who marries me or even my girlfriends, they have to put up with my mother. Jesus,
Put up with.
put up with.
Hmm.
They do put up with. Some of them indulge and encourage.
Marisha, you need that. You should get it.
You need that.
You need it.
You need.
You
You
don't,
don't have that in that
you don't have
color.
that in the color.
No,
Get
get
it in
it.
every color.
Get it in every color because it looks so good on you.
Mm.
It looks so good on you, and then space it out so people don't realize you have the
Same
same
thing
dress
in different
in
colors.
4 different colors.
That's right.
Like, and it's listen to me. I know it seems like something trivial, but I want us to like really think about like the areas of our lives where like people are actually encouraging us in our coping mechanisms.
And just because this one is shopping doesn't mean that some other coping mechanism,
It's a coping mechanism.
because some of you shopping as okay,
Yeah, like every
but
woman to shop. But what's behind that? It could be
I,
the same thing behind the person who's an alcoholic. It could be the same thing. What are the coping mechanisms that we're using to mask the pain that that little girl
but at
on
this
the inside of
but at this
us
point,
is?
if you are grown, come on, man, have this conversation
But
with
you're saying
yourself.
that from your place of exposure, though.
I'm gonna think, Joe, I saw what you did there. I saw what you did there, and this is the reason why.
From your place of exposure, because you've been enlightened. And
Marisha,
so many of our women are not.
man, Marisha,
We're
something,
not.
but something in you,
Something, the
the
Holy Ghost, and they ain't got him.
conscience, your conscience alone.
Your conscience is based upon how you've been nurtured and what you've been exposed to.
But
And
come
if
on,
you haven't been
you,
exposed to freedom
no matter who,
or a healthy way of
someone
life,
could cuss somebody out, and that's their quote unquote nature. That's how they are. That's how they were grown.
mm-hmm.
And no, boy, I really shouldn't have. I really shouldn't have do that. I was just dealing with a lot that day, and that's why I did that.
And then again, that same scenario, somebody could see like, well, at least I didn't kill him.
Holy Ghost.
It's according to your perspective.
But the thing is, to be delivered takes the same process, no matter the perspective. And that requires acknowledgement. It
But it
requires,
also requires this understanding that deliverance is actually possible.
you gotta understand that there's a problem.
Well, it requires you acknowledging that there's something actually to be delivered from. And if it's your way of life, way of existing, and as far as you're concerned, this is what the struggle is supposed to be like.
Well, maybe this is just my mind. Hopefully, God put someone.
You're definitely the optimist in this conversation.
Hopefully, God put someone. 'Cause
Hopefully.
everyone always has someone, whether we receive them or not. It- and I'm not talking about someone who has to be in your everyday life. You could walk by.
Hmm.
Just an encounter in the food store. We all go to the food store. We all go to the gas station. We all go to the bank. We all do, regular daily stuff. And you come into contact with someone and they say, listen, baby, I saw what you did there. It's usually an old mother.
Mm-hmm.
They
Well,
always
back in the day, because the old mothers ain't really what they used to.
anyway,
be.
I don't right?
Because the old mother
And
skirt shorter than us, Joe.
honestly, we do go into the club
Tighter,
together.
tighter than us.
Holy Ghost.
My
But
God.
someone along the way.
Mm.
Because as simple as some may see it, your relationship has changed my perspective. Our relationship
Yeah.
has changed my perspective a lot.
It
But
has. And vice versa.
but that's the thing. We have to, whether spiritual or not, see persons as help to us from trying to get from that 6-year-old Joinae or that 6-year-old
Mm-hmm.
Mericha. And it may not be the conventional way of deliverance. But you could be in your room with your before y'all go to the party. Before you go to the club. Listen, man, Risha, this really hurt me. And I see there's this guy that I'm interested in, and I know that I have this problem. because this is what I've seen.
I think,
You understand where I'm
yeah,
coming
I
from?
think that it takes. I think that it takes those of us who are exposed and enlightened to ensure that we are intentional with duplicating ourselves. It's one of the reasons I continue to say yes to the show even when I tell God no. It's one of the
That's between you
reasons
and God. I ain't getting in that. I ain't getting in
it's
that.
one of the reasons I continue to say yes to the show, because most of us don't even take the time to think through our actions and
Agreed.
our conversations and our
Agreed.
words. And if all this show does is just make you process some of the things that you say and do in life, then we've accomplished our
Right.
goal. um but the reality alongside that is, um so many of us are living an existence where we don't have enough time to consider who we are. We don't, life throws so many things at us and we're trying to balance
Barely making it day by
so
day.
much as women that we don't have time to pause and look at how my 12-year-old self is like literally standing in front of my 35-year-old self,
Right.
my 40-year-old self, and dictating her actions and her
Right.
every move.
Right.
And because we're trying to be all things to everybody and also be there for ourselves,
We're
we
nothing to
don't take
ourselves.
the time to slow down and to recognize, like, boo, even if you take half an hour a day, check yourself.
15 minutes. You don't even need a full half an hour.
Check yourself. Why did you snap at your coworker today?
Right.
Why did you slam that door?
Why did you shut down?
Why?
That's another one.
Why?
Because some people aren't as vocal
Right.
and go
Why did you
quiet.
scream at your child when they just were saying, "Mommy, I'm hungry"? Why did you scream at them?
Right.
What is it about you as a single woman where you don't let people in? Like, why are you so closed off? Why are you always home? In because you tired all the time.
Honestly,
You married and you have a whole child, mom.
I could be home.
But like, why don't you feel safe around men?
Yeah.
Why don't you feel safe around women?
Right.
Like, why do you have problem with authority figures?
Mm.
What's really the issue
Mm.
here? Why you can't budget your money? What's the issue?
I explain it.
You know,
That's the issue.
what's behind your vices? What is the trauma, the trigger that's behind that vice that you always run to, whether it's shopping, whether it's pornography, whether it's drinking, whether it's smoking, whether it's masturbation, like
Right.
whatever it is, or your lashes so long you can't even see your cheeks. Like, what
What
is the
cheeks?
reason?
What
Like,
cheeks?
what's the reason? Like, what's the reason that you don't love you enough to prioritize you?
Somebody told you not to believe in you. Somebody told you, listen, I see what you have going on here. Don't do that. Take it down a notch and you will not be attacked as much. Because that's what we are taught.
We're trying to disappear.
Take it down a notch so that you're not attacked, so that you don't draw people to you to not like you. Take it down a notch. That's where we get it from.
But the problem that I have with that is that this is not Paul. This is not somebody in the Old Testament. This is Jesus. Jesus in the book of Matthew, he says, "You are the salt of the earth. You're hidden. Fine. You infuse yourself into situations where you're not seen, but you have great impact on them." But then he also says, "You are the light of the world, a city set on a hill that cannot
Cannot be it.
be hid."
That's what it says.
And he doesn't say, "I want you to be the salt of the earth."
See,
and
you
I
are.
want you to figure out
You are.
how to be the light of the world. And I need you to go to class and go to school
Right.
and understand the
Of
processes
light.
of being light and how does one become. That's not what he says. He
Right.
says you are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. So that means that we're supposed to be both inconspicuous and then inexplicably bright.
Undeniable.
That you are supposed to draw attention to you and also be able to fit into systems
But-
and situations inconspicuously. Like Jesus, I don't know how you expecting us to do both of those things, but use Jesus. So I'm not gonna,
We need revelation. For
I'm
that.
not gonna,
Right.
I'm not gonna disagree with you on it. I just
Right.
gonna say,
Help me out.
salt, light. I mean, come on,
help
do
me
it.
out.
Like,
Make it make sense.
to,
Make it make sense. Yes. I understand.
But I wonder if that's what history got wrong when it came to Christianity, in particular to women. When we look at scripture and we study the Bible, we see how through the ages, like, first of all, the Bible talks about the feeding of the 5,000 and don't even include women and children in the number.
Gee.
We call the parable the feeding of the 5,000, and it was recorded that there was 5,000 men there.
Oh wow.
That's not the women and children yet. We call that the feeding of the 5,000. We don't count the women and children. You don't count. Paul tell you, sweetie, hush your mouth. Why are you talking in church without your husband's permission? In fact, you
Yeah.
are a prostitute / Jezebel if you in church without your head covered.
Right. But the way. But the.
You
but
you
the-
understand?
Right. But.
So history has suppressed, made you of no value. I don't know if we really understand the culture with which scripture was written. I was listening to a story the other day about how if your husband dies, it's his brother's responsibility to then
Yes.
marry you and then redeem you.
Yes.
Like, I'm sorry,
Yes.
excuse me, what? When did I
Yes.
become a man's
I-
property
I
that
just
your
read
brother
that.
have to marry me to
My
redeem me?
pastor
Like,
just preached that.
excuse me? Like, pardon me? And I go, listen to me, and this takes me back to Genesis.
Right.
To me, like, this is where it starts. It started with the curse, and we are in the year 2022. Listen, Jesus been dead more than over 2,000 years ago, y'all. Please stop saying 2,000 years. It have to be more than that. It have to be at least 20.
That's why we say over.
No, but over 20,000. Come on, man. But like, here we are in the year 2022 AD.
My God.
And we are still fighting for humanity as women. Our 12-year-old self has a history behind us of oppression, of insignificance, of worthlessness, of low self-esteem, of
Sure.
not mattering, not counting, not being valued.
When are we gonna get over that?
I don't know.
Honestly, I mean, because we could sit here all day and talk about what happened before Jesus, after Jesus.
We need Jesus.
When Jesus comes, all of this.
We need Jesus.
But I mean, when we could be delivered.
Jesus. We need Jesus.
But what if someone not exposed to Jesus?
Then we got well, here's the beautiful part about this. Jesus can't come back till everybody done been exposed.
We can need.
So we delaying Jesus coming back.
Work while it's day. Honestly, honestly,
like, we delaying Jesus coming back. I ain't gonna lie, I just get excited because I'm that weird person that watches things like CBN, and I read like missionary news and things like that. So like, I know that there are still some languages in the earth that the Bible has not been translated in. And so because I know that the portion of the prophetic fulfillment of scripture is that every man has to be exposed to Jesus before God comes, I just feel like, okay, God, you can't come yet. Because there's like three or four languages in the world that don't have the Bible in their language. Okay, all right, we good. The end of days is not as nigh as we think it is, but
we could be delivered. Marie.
When we could be delivered.
Honestly,
I think it starts with conversations like this, where we understand that the element of what we're dealing with as women, especially these portions of us that have not healed, that little girl that has not healed yet, where we begin to heal ourselves
I think this is so broad.
first, and then we influence other women to
What
be healed.
what are you hurting about?
Um,
Aside from,
I
being a female and
identity, identity,
okay.
identity, worth, um, substance, acceptance,
It's a tight one.
and equal equity.
Mm.
I don't want to say equality. I'm going to
Explain
say
that.
equity, because I am not a man, so I don't want to be equal with him, but
Just want to be respected.
I need to be as valued as he is.
I understand.
I don't want the same burdens that he has, because I've not been created to carry that same weight.
Mm.
I want respect for who I've been created to be and what I've been created
I
to
understand.
carry. So not equality, but equity.
Mm.
Um, but I also want healing. Healing as a woman. I want to be a whole person. A whole woman is not perfect. A whole woman is someone who is aware of herself,
Right.
who understands that today I didn't get it right in this particular moment because I had this thing in me that I haven't fully worked through yet. And it's okay for me to be in process. And it's also healthy for me to recognize that in my process, I can hurt people, and it's my responsibility to ensure that I remedy that hurt.
Right. And if you in process, man, leave people, children alone.
Leave people, children
Honestly,
alone.
and that's how it's become so much
Mhm.
because you have hurt people, linking with
Hurting
hurt
people.
people,
And just hurting more people.
and then bringing hurt children into the world, and then they are affecting the people or the children that they encounter.
Yeah. The woman of God in me can't leave this out. Jesus came and broke that curse, man, Joe.
He did, but there is something that is trying to restrict that liberty from coming.
Hmm.
That's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Just had this conversation with someone today. Daniel, the answer was released, but the prince of the kingdom of Persia
Ah, yes.
withstood him 21 days. Could it be
Mm,
just perspective?
putting it out there. And I love it.
Could it be that the answer was released and we haven't attained it yet? And there is something that is hindering it?
I believe it.
I think that's where we're at.
I believe it.
Let's think
I
about
believe
that. Well,
it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all great too. Jesus saves and all those
Mm-hmm.
great stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
the reality is there is a devil that doesn't want us to
There
get it.
is a level of spiritual warfare that is definitely, I mean, like, he doesn't want the greatest form of agreement
Right.
in the earth.
And then not only that, he doesn't want you to believe in you.
Yeah.
Because if I could get Joinae to believe in herself, the impact that she can make.
Yes.
Because the gospel still has to go through the whole world.
It gotta go.
Right.
Everybody gotta hear about
But his
Jesus.
main thing is, let me stop it. Let me use this as a way to hinder.
Make sure that you don't get good news.
Okay.
And that's what I love about it. I love the fact that, like, in the eyes of faith, true Christian faith, it's not this, oh, Jesus came to break the curse or whatever. It's like, here's the good news.
Yes.
You don't have to live like this
You can
anymore.
be liberated in Jesus.
You can be free. You can be free. And it's not this mystical thing. Like,
no, it ain't that deep.
Just
be honest and tell the truth and move on.
So, to our girlfriends, man, we are let's do it. Let's do it like this. I think we should end the show like this because I had no idea this is where this was gonna go, but let's make a commitment to be self-aware, to be whole women, and to begin the process of dealing with that hurting little girl let's start to make a note of how she surfaces. How does little Mericha, little Joinae, who whatever your name is, whatever like wherever you find yourself in life, how does she show up? Because she shows up. She shows up, and if I know the little girl in me, like I know the little girl in you, when she show up loud. She don't show up quiet.
And then for some persons, it makes them very emotional.
Yes.
Maybe not angry, but very touchy.
Yeah. But she's showing up, man. She's showing up. And when she makes her presence felt, and a lot of times we just ignore her. And perhaps that's why, as a grown woman, you still don't feel seen because you
Right.
haven't even taken, we haven't taken the time
That's right.
to acknowledge the little girl in us who wants to be seen,
Yes.
acknowledged, and made whole. Um, but we got to deal with her.
It's a
We
tight
got to
one.
deal with her. And we have to start recognizing her traumas. We have to ensure that, like, she's healed. Because then when you encounter things as a grown woman now,
Right.
who's pay bills, you know, it will make the process of healing as a woman just a little bit easier. I ain't saying it could be a bed of roses, but just it makes things a little bit easier because now you don't have to deal with 8-year-old you, 12-year-old you,
Right.
14-year-old you,
Right.
and then 37-year-old you. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Um, but I think we need to begin there. Begin in that place where we're making space for me.
And I think to add to that, do not be fooled. This
Mm.
is not an overnight thing.
Yes.
Make it a part of your daily routine.
Mm-hmm.
And if that means, and I recommend it all the time, if that means putting things on your mirror,
Mm-hmm.
be always in our phone, making notes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
On Marisha got a 1000 reminders
Yeah, I do. I have a lot
in a
of
day,
alarms. Yeah.
alarms to go
Mm-hmm.
off. And if it takes you saying, listen, no matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, technology is real. Look at your watch and say, listen, it's time for me to say, Joe, you will be more than what people say you are.
Yes. Yes, I love it.
You will have your dream job. You
Mm-hmm.
will have your husband. You will have
Yes.
your wife. Wherever you find yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm sure males watching this too. Listen,
Yeah.
daily affirmations before you, in the quiet of the day, when you get up to pray, when you get up just to get your day started, while you're making your breakfast,
Mm-hmm.
make it a part of your daily routine to have a daily effect.
Yes.
Because if you're doing it once a week, by the following day, everything out the window. Everything out
Sometimes
the
you need to do
window.
it several times a day to be real.
Right. I think that's the greatest part of healing is to be
Mhm.
consistent in being healed.
And to have better conversations with yourself about yourself too.
Not
To
only
be
that,
healthier.
surround yourself with people of like mind.
Yes.
And no, I take that back. Not of like mind, but who has been delivered from what you are dealing with. Because if I hang with someone like mind,
Yeah, it just might bring me further down.
just may,
Ugh.
it's almost inevitable for you to.
I definitely believe in pulling people up to where you are, and I believe in reaching up to people who are where you want to be.
Yes, and that's my point.
Mm-hmm.
Surround yourself with people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, YouTube full of motivational speeches, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes maybe you don't feel like you can talk to someone who's around you. Maybe you cannot express certain things
Right.
to your friends because
Mhm.
they're waiting for you to pull them up to your level.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have someone, but I promise you, God will send someone on YouTube,
He will.
an unfamiliar voice that you
He
can't
absolutely will.
backtalk or you can't bargain and say, well, Marisha, but understand this, or Joe, Joinae, understand this.
Right.
There is someone to encourage you.
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
Yeah. And you know, that's where we end our show every time. You gotta get you some good girlfriends.
That's
Get you some good girlfriends. And that's what we need. You
Need it
need that
desperately.
girlfriend who is gonna check you. You need
Yes.
that girlfriend who's gonna be your mirror, who's gonna show you yourself. You need that girlfriend who's gonna be that shoulder that you need when that trigger comes up and you just can't keep it together, you need a shoulder to cry on, a shoulder to lean on, and who can give advice, who can
Yes.
be that wisdom in a sister that you need, and who can just be there for you.
And don't be offended by them.
Yeah,
Don't be offended.
yeah.
Because I know Mericha is looking out for my best interests.
Mhm.
Anything she says, whether I agree or disagree or like it at
Whether
the
I
moment
like it, yeah,
or not, it's what I need.
it's what you need. And then at the same time, while we're looking for that, we say it every week, don't forget to be that girl. Don't forget to be that lady who is everything her girlfriend needs. And then I want to add to that, you listen to me, you need a hype girlfriend.
Oh, check me out.
Y'all see my hype girlfriend sitting right across from
Check
me,
me
right?
out.
Like, I
Ask
could be
anybody
having a
about me.
horrible day.
Ask
Like,
anyone.
I could be looking like crap, and she'd be like, "Yes,
Come on,
liquid
orange
liner, orange shirt." Like, I mean, like, you might feel like crap, and this girlfriend I have
Listen.
named Joinae Daniel Wife Gibson
Okay.
will ensure
Listen.
that I feeling hype about something, even if it's my nails.
Even.
You need to get yourself a hype girlfriend. You need
That's
that.
all.
You need somebody who can be like, "Boo, I know your eyes puffy, but listen, your brows on fleek."
That pink lipstick.
Ah, yes.
Mm,
So you're gonna need that. You're gonna need that. Listen,
Definitely.
it's been an amazing show.
yes. Had a great time today.
It's been awesome.
Even though I feel like our comment section was a little quiet today. I hope you're doing introspection.
yeah, I think we kind of it was heavy today.
It's a little tight. I could feel it, but
Last week they was commenting because they didn't like
Listen,
my business.
right,
That's why.
right. Hashtag 7 days. Oh, no, is it 7? 3 days.
12.
12 days.
12. But our hashtag for today is watch and pray.
Watch and pray.
Watch and pray. Coming up next week on Girl Talk.
Nothing. You.
I do it last. You do it last week. eh?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's all you.
Adjust my crown. Don't just tell me you're leaning, man.
Gee.
So that's what we're gonna talk about next week. We were supposed to plan the show for the following week, y'all, but we didn't do it right. So
Pray for us.
pray for us.
We need help.
We can do better. We can do better. We got some busy lives going on, but that's what we're talking about next week. So you definitely want to tune in.
Don't miss it.
Don't miss next week's episode, season 4, episode 3 of Girl Talk. It's been an amazing show today. We pray that you were blessed, enlightened, encouraged, uplifted, something by today's show. Even if you just sit down and, talk about our hair. I don't know. We hope that something something from the show today has impacted you. And thank you so much for tuning in. And we say hello to all of our listeners in Radio Land who are tuned into 93.9 FM. Hey. And then, of course, our people on Twitter, on YouTube, and Facebook. We appreciate you. We love you. Until next time, we gone.
Find a tribe.